Hey there gamers, welcome back to the Board Game Co channel, and today we have a preview of Tiberpunk Streets of Rome. Hey there gamers, it's Professor Meg here, and welcome back to the Board Game Co channel. Today we have a preview of Tiberpunk Streets of Rome by ID Venture. Now, this is an upcoming Kickstarter campaign, so you can check out the link down below for everything that they have planned. This is a sponsored preview, and this is also a prototype copy in front of me, so all rules, components, things like that are subject to change, and it is a prototype version. Now, Tiberpunk Streets of Rome is going to be a competitive game where players are maneuvering around Rome, but it's not as you might know it. So this is old world Rome, but in the lore of the game, aliens actually came, crashed, left behind some technology, and then left our planet. So now all of the humans that are still on the planet have access to these really cool technologies, but they're still living through Rome as we kind of know it from history. So it is a modern day, but back then Rome, where you are going to have all these different gadgets available to you, as well as different ships and your drones, and you're going to be trying to maneuver around going through these different storylines to complete different objectives. So you are going to have some that will pull you through a storyline, which can be very interactive, and then you have some where you're trying to complete certain conditions to also get those objectives as well. So the first player to place out 8 of their objectives is going to trigger endgame, and during that round, whoever places out the most is going to win the game. Now, the game is currently set up for 4 players, but I only have 1 player board over here for sake of space. So just know this is the general board area where everyone's going to be playing within in these different places, where, as you may have noticed, it does look like Rome, but a bit more futuristic, where there are things like drones maneuvering around here, and then over here is our player board. Now, ultimately, what players are trying to do is place out all of their victory tokens here. So you do have an extra one for you to be able to place out a 9th, and even if you place out 9 and you could place out more, there are some over here during that final round of the game, but ultimately you're trying to place out 8 of them to trigger endgame and hopefully be the one that has placed the most. So in order to start placing these out, you need 2 completely different objectives on these cards here. So there are 2 types, and the top 2 cards are going to be variable objectives, where it's different things that you need to do to be able to complete them. For example, this one here is to have all of your tracks at the max line over here, and then also be in that particular area. But these ones are the ones that are for storyline objectives. So there is actually a blue card as well. That's a prototype note that I do not have the blue objective card, but there's 1 for each color. As you can see, there's a blue token, a yellow token, and a red token out here on the board, and we have 3 stacks of the storylines that you're going to be able to play through. Now, these are different tasks where players are going to all have access to the same ones, which is going to be the top card, and they're going to need to go to that particular area. So, for example, there's Catch the Vandals here, which is right here, and everyone is able to go to that, but as soon as one player does complete this and accomplish this card, they're going to start triggering that storyline for themselves, and then the next card will be shown for players to be able to do. So you're always able to do each type of storyline. For example, that red diamond, you're always able to have that available to you, but it's kind of a first come first serve for who is able to get to that particular task first. Now, I will walk you through all of the actions in a moment, but to walk you through what a turn might look like, on your player board here, you're going to be selecting your different actions that you are doing, and as you can see here, we have 3 different tokens available to us. Now, this is the one which is interacting with a building, and we already bought a gadget card, and as you can see here, there are also blessings that you are able to do that once per turn, you're going to align yourself with one of these to help boost something that you're doing. So we were aligned over here with this one, which gave us a -1 discount. When we did that, we took a card with our drone, we bought a gadget, so that was what we did on our first turn, but you can see that we no longer have that token available to us. So I am going to have us move over here to interact just to show you what that would look like, and we are going to be doing it with our person, and that's what this token is. So there's your person, there's your drone, and then there's also a spaceship token, which is going to allow you to take a gadget card and a spaceship card, and these are going to allow you to do extra actions. So I'll get into those in a moment. I want to walk you through a turn, but just know that's what your different actions are. And as you can see, now we have limited options for what our our action would be next turn. But next turn, now that we only have 2 options available, say we chose to take this action, that is when this one would be removed. So you are constantly always having a choice of 2 actions available once you start the game and you're a few rounds in, but that's going to make it tricky because you're going to be able to see what players have available and what they're going to be trying to do as well. Now, for this turn, we do have a few options available to us. We are able to change our blessing, but you're only able to change to one that is next to the one that you're at. Now, luckily for us, if we moved ours now, we would be able to gain an extra movement, and our person is 2 away from the current task that we want to try to do. So we could do that, but we also have 2 gadget cards, and you're able to play only one when you are rolling for a particular thing, but if you have that particular blessing, you're able to have up to 3 played instead. So we may choose to do that to help ourselves out because I think we have some pretty good cards, but that means that we're going to have to pay an additional coin to move an extra spot. So your people are going to be able to move 1 spot, but your drones are able to move 2, and you're actually able to move the lictor drones, which are going to be the surveillance that is around Rome, for 2 movement as well. So you're only able to move 1 thing unless you have a particular blessing, which I'll talk about upgrades in a moment, but when you're doing this, you're able to move those lictors and perhaps stop opponents from doing certain things that they want to do as well. So that's something they're able to do, but in this instance, we want to move ourselves, so we're going to pay a coin to do that and then increase how many cards we're able to play for this task. So here is that blessing where we would not be able to move to this blessing over here, but we are going to move over to here to increase how many cards we're able to play, and we do have 2 over here. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to pay our 1 coin to be able to go 1 and then 2 over here to Porta Capena. So we are going to interact with this token here. Now for the yellow ones, they have to be your person, whereas the blue ones have to be your drone, but these ones can be either. So we are going to move over here, and then we are going to use this token to have our interaction begin. Now, this is where your skills are going to be really important and why you're going to want to increase them, because as you start to do so, you're going to roll more dice for these different checks that you're going to be doing. So you're also able to increase an additional die when you boost over here, and that's going to be a reward that players are able to get for completing these objectives. So I'll show you when we get through this, but as you start placing tokens on these different objectives, you're going to gain benefits. So sometimes you are able to place a token here for you to have an extra die as well for those checks. So looking over here, we have Catch the Vandals, and we're going to complete a stage 1 in Porta Capena, which is right here. So these are your stage 1 cards, and these are the stage 3. So we're going to draw this and see what we need to do. So this is going to be 2 dice, and you need to roll 4 or higher. So it's going to have certain requirements for you, but this one luckily is a 4 or higher. So in this instance, we are already rolling 2 dice, so we're going to grab those over here for ourselves, and we are going to use this gadget card here, roll an extra die. So we will use that to have an extra die as well, because we're trying to get at least 2 that are 4 or higher. So we're now going to roll these, and we got a 6, a 1, and a 1, and that is not great for us because we do have this, which is change a die value by 2, but you're not able to wrap around, meaning that these at most would be a 3. Now, this is worst case scenario for us because when you would fail a check, you would move a lictor 1 space toward you. So you would actually move this one over into the same space as us, but if any of them weren't able to get close enough to be in the same space as us, we would be able to roll again and continue trying. But because they did enter our space, we are going to fail this, and we would actually receive shackles, which means that we are rolling 1 fewer die in the future until we are able to get rid of them. So that is pretty bad for us. As you can see, that's what's shown here on the card. But if we're going to pretend that we had a 2 here instead, we would be able to use this additional gadget again only because we have this particular blessing over here, and we would be able to increase this to a 4 and then be successful. Now, finally, if we were successful, we would be able to continue on with this particular storyline. So we would then be able to take this card for ourselves, flip it over, and I am going to read you this flavor text so you can get an idea of what these different storylines are going to feel like, but this is Catch the Vandals. The tombs along the Appian Way have been looted again. You caught the Vandals who thought the burial vaults were easy pickings. The captured Porceps pointed you a hidden entrance into the catacombs. At the mouth of it, you noticed an enemy drone you'd been watching you the whole time. You need to take it out before its owner pulls the data. Place your victory marker on the stage 1 objective. So we would then take one of these and place it over here. And this is when we're going to receive these rewards, where we can choose one of these skills to upgrade. So we could choose to upgrade our drone over here. And then we're also going to get 2 coins for that for later. So that is the reward you would get for placing this over here. And then we're able to advance to task 12, which is going to be this card here, which is now a personal task for us, and then reveal a new stage 1 task, update the location. So to reveal the next one, it's going to be this one here, which is going to be in the Templum passes. So it's going to be placed over here where there's currently a drone, which means that you would not be able to do this interaction until that drone leaves. And then the card that we gained is going to be something a bit unique, where for stage 1 and stage 3, you're going to be making these different rolls, but for stage 2, it's going to have a certain requirement for you instead. So this one is defeat another player's drone in combat, and then you would receive the victory token for completing the task. So I am just going to pretend that we did this and fast forward us so that you can see what this looks like, but we have destroy the enemy drone to clear the path. You cornered the spy drone in the back alley and took it down before heading back to the catacombs. The tunnels lead into an old sector sealed off since the purges of the Techno Uprising. Locals whisper of an immortal guardian still haunting the depths. Place a victory marker on stage 2. So that would, again, once we accomplish this, we would be able to do that. And then advance to task 33. So a task 33 over here is going to be find the immortal guardian. So this is going to be completing a stage 3 task in Esquil, which is going to be that top corner area over there. So you need to be in that area, and then with this one, because of the type it is, you could use either of your tokens, this one or this one, but you would have to have it available, and then you would unveil this and try to beat this one instead. So for example, this one you need 3 successes, and you need exactly 3 dice with odd numbers, no more, no less. So you can see where that's a bit more difficult, and you're going to need a lot of things at your disposal to try to make that happen. So it's going to get harder and harder, but if we were able to complete that, this would have us go on to this flavor text, which is find the immortal guardian. The immortal guardian turned out to be a deactivated battle titan forgotten in records and memory. You hacked it, and now it will serve only you. Place your victory marker on the stage 3 objective. So we would then place this over to here, and again, when we did this, we would have been able to increase something as well. We'll place this and be able to increase something, but also if you are the first player for any of them to reach the end, you're going to place a second marker. So you can see where you need to place out 8 in a game, and going through one storyline objective card is going to have you placing out 4 if you are the first to be able to go through that particular line, whereas another player may have been working over here on the yellow storyline objectives. So you can see where you're trying to place those out between the different things at your disposal, and you're also trying to maneuver around the board to get better and better to be able to make these rolls. All players are going to be racing for putting out those different victory tokens, but all of your other actions are going to be working toward making yourself better. You're going to need some of those gadget cards to be able to play to mitigate a lot of those rolls, because it can be very difficult to do so. You're going to want to increase all of your skills, that way you're rolling as many dice as possible for these different things that you're trying to do, but you're also able to engage in combat. So you may be maneuvering around the board to engage with combat either with the lictors, which are the drones that are kind of the AI throughout the game that are moving around and stopping you from doing things throughout Rome with surveillance, but you might also be fighting off your opponents as well. As you saw, the card that we had required us to fight off a drone. So there is combat, which I will walk you through as well, but the majority of the other actions that you're doing throughout the game is trying to boost yourself to be strong enough to complete these objectives. So the spaceship interaction token is going to have you taking one of these spaceship cards, and when a player does so, they're actually going to place this lock token on the pile that they take from, meaning that players aren't able to take from the same pile twice. So you are locking off yourself, but more importantly, you're locking off other opponents, because remember, you won't be able to take another spaceship action for a few turns because this will be placed into your wheel. So you're going to use that to select these, and it's going to give you an option of taking another action, perhaps an additional movement, or this one is a movement or a building, this one is a movement or a drone, and this one is a movement or your person. But when you use these different spaceships, as you can imagine, a spaceship flying through Rome is going to perhaps be noticed. So it also adds out another lictor that when you do that, those have to be placed out. So it's going to get more and more dangerous for you, but that's another way for you to place them out if you have an objective that is requiring you to fight a lictor as well. So that is how you're going to be acquiring these. And there's also the gadget cards here, which you saw us use. So the way that you're able to gain the gadget cards is that you're either able to have your drone interact in these areas here and pay 2 coins. And when you do so, you're going to place a presence token here. So you'll be placing these out, making your income stronger and stronger. But you're also able to gain these when you use the spaceship action, where you're able to play that and gain one of these. So you're going to have these available to you, but remember that you're only able to add 1 per roll unless you have a particular favor that's going to allow you to add more. Now, finally, another thing that you're able to do in this area as well is this is where you would pay to increase your skills if you're not increasing it with the rewards from the objectives. So as you can see, it would cost 2 or 3 coins depending on the level of the skill that you're trying to increase, but you're going to pay every time for each level that you want to increase, and you're able to increase your skills in that way as well. Now, similarly, with your people, you are able to be in the temple areas to purchase certain blessings. So if you use this over here, this interaction token, you're able to be in the area that is the same color as that temple. So there are always 2 locations that are connected to them, and if you're in one of those locations, you are able to purchase that upgrade for 2 coins. So when you do so, again, you're going to place out a presence token, which is going to be more helpful for you to start uncovering those. But you're going to place those out and be able to increase your blessings. So normally this one would allow you to do an additional movement, meaning that you'd be able to move 2 or 3 with your different units. But if you get this, you're able to move not only the additional one, but an additional movement as well, meaning that you're able to move 2 things, either a lictor, your person, or your drone, and they all get an additional movement as well when doing so. So that's going to be that upgrade over there. This one is going to be for when you are using those spaceship cards. So when this is placed here, you are not locked and you can take from any pile that you would choose to take from. But once you have this over here, you're able to not only be locked off from which one you take, but you're able to use it that exact turn. Because normally when you purchase these, you're not able to use it until a future turn. But once you have this ability unlocked and you have your token in that current favor, you are able to play it the turn that you purchase it. Because again, not only do you have these abilities, but you have to have your token in that particular area for it to be activated for you currently. So this one over here is the one that we saw in play where you're able to have 3 gadget cards. But if you have this, you're able to have 3 gadget cards and apply it to 2 of your dice. So you're able to apply those results a bit better for yourself and in a way double the cards that you're using for their effect. Now, there's also this one over here, which gives you a -1 discount on the building action, but once you have this this upgrade over here, and now it would also apply for the upgrade hub as well, which is absolutely huge because money is very tight in this game, and you're going to want to be spending it on the different things that you need to accomplish, especially buying gadget cards, so that's going to be really important for you to have that discount. Now, finally, another action that players are able to do is if you don't want to use a particular interaction, you are able to place your token to then take your income. So placing out our presence markers is very important because if you don't want to do the thing you want to do, but you do need that money, you are able to take that as your income instead and gain what has been revealed for you on the board. So now let's talk a little bit about combat in the game because it is going to be very unique, where at the beginning of the game you're going to have 2 tiles set out, and that's going to show you the style of combat for the game. So I'll show you exactly what that means in a moment, but you're going to have different ways that you're trying to roll when you are attacking, and then after that the defenders are going to be able to break ties. So the attacker is going to choose the style of how you're fighting, everyone's going to roll their dice, and then the defender is going to be able to hopefully defend themselves, but the attacker of course is trying trying to take them out. Now when you're attacking, you're using your offensive skill, which is going to be the red one, but depending on who you're choosing to attack, whether it's the drone or the person, you're going to either be defending with guile or hacking. So depending on what you're trying to do, you're going to be rolling different skills, and you're also able to add in your different gadget cards. And the priority for playing your gadget cards is going to be whoever is currently losing. So a player could be losing, play something to make it so that they're currently winning that combat, but then the loser is going to be able to respond to that and play a card themselves. Now up here you can see those two tiles that I was talking about, where with this one you're trying to have the largest consecutive amount of dice. So for example, a 2, 3, and 4, whereas this one is going to have you wanting to have as many evens as possible. So if the combat was happening over here between these two players, let's say for example this was us and our skill was a little bit better, we would be at 4 dice for that. So we would be able to grab our 4 dice, and if we did have a token over here, we would be able to roll an additional dice, but we would be able to roll that. Whereas the other player, for example, if they only had a 3 for their defending, they would be rolling 3 dice against us. So as the attacker, if we chose to use the consecutive one, for the opponent's 3 dice, they would have a 3, 4, and 6. So at least right now they have a 3 and a 4. And then we would have rolled, oh goodness, a 1, 1, 3, and 6. So we don't have anything consecutive. So you can see where they already have 2 successes toward what is needed, where we have 0. Now, we would have initiated this attack, for example, for this objective card over here. So in this example, if we had one, and if we had rolled better, we would have been able to place one of our tokens over on that area and receive the benefit below, which is going to be that upgrade over here that I've been talking about, or one of these cards, and then an additional 2 coins, and we would have placed our token there. But where the opponent beats us and they're the defender, we are going to receive shackles, where no matter what you would receive shackles, which is going to hinder you, whoever loses, but because they won, they are not going to be able to place out their victory token onto the objective, but they would actually still get those rewards. So they would be able to choose to either slot an upgrade over here or get themselves a gadget card, as well as 2 coins, just for being able to successfully defend themselves in that situation. Overall, Tiberpunk Streets of Rome is going to be very straightforward, where the general pace of play is pretty quick, where you do have your 4 different interaction tokens, but you only have 2 available to you when you're making that choice of what to do each round. So it kind of helps with that analysis paralysis, where you only have a few things available to you, but you really need to think outpacing for what you need available to yourself in the future, because when you do use those actions, you won't get that action back for a few rounds. So you really need to be sure that you want to be using it when you're using it, and the pacing of when it comes back for you. So that's going to be extremely important, as well as keeping an eye out for these lictors, because they are going to make things more and more difficult. As you saw when we failed that check, if we had been somewhere a bit further away, or if some of them had been taken out on the board, then we would have been able to roll again and perhaps be able to beat that task. So they're going to make it a lot harder and move around on the board on you, because players are going to be able to move them as well. But overall, this game is going to feel like a race, where everyone is trying to complete these different objectives as quickly as possible, because the end game is going to be triggered immediately when a player places out their 8th token, and then after that you're going to have that round, and that's it. So for example, if the first player has 1 token left and then the second player places out their last one, that round will complete, but the first player will never get another turn again. So it really is an urgent race, where you're trying to complete these different things that you are doing, and where the actions are very straightforward and it is very fast paced. There is a lot of story for you to be going through as well, because you are going through these different storyline objectives. So you do have that bit of flavor text to take you through the lore of the game and why you're there and why you're doing what you're doing. So you do have that, and it doesn't feel like an interruption. It feels very welcome, where you're kind of going through these personal quests for yourself, but the actions that you're doing are very strategic but straightforward. So this has been a preview of Tiberpunk Streets of Rome by ID Venture. You can check out the link down below for Kickstarter for everything that they have planned. I've been Professor Meg. Thank you all for watching the Board Game Co channel, and I'll see you next time. Bye!